Hi there. Happy 4th of July. Actually, I got a bug in my eye. Actually, happy 3rd of July. Leslie Little Plazik here. Zazoo Plaz. 4th of July weekend. Wasn't it just Memorial Day? It's another one of those burgers and dogs on the grill weekends. One word. Only maybe it's kielbasa. I don't know, and I'm not eating any of it. I planned a nice... I'm striking out. Did I say Leslie Little Plazik? Zazoo Plaz, July 3rd, 2022. I think I did, but I just want to make sure I said it because there's so much going on, like below the surface and above the surface, I guess. But it's that time of year. Sun is in my 10th house, Cancer. You know, the crab. 10th house means it's my midheaven. So I'm in career mode. So all of this nonsense, you know, it's all work for me, right? Your midheaven is the place in your chart where you're concerned about your public social status, you know, how your mission in the world, so to speak. So I have a sort of a patriotic theme today, in a way. It's Independence Day, right? Happy birthday to Tom Cruise. He's turning 60 today. My boys didn't, nobody at home thought this was a big deal, but to me it's a big deal. Wow. I grew up, watching all Tom Cruise movies, following him from Risky Business all the way through, my growing up. So, we were the generation. We had in our freshman dorm rooms, we had posters of Footloose and Risky Business. We were the generation that we were into that stuff. And I was thinking, I got this song in my head today, Fame. Remember Irene Cara? That was 1980, and then she did Flashdance, 1983. And had these women I was talking to. They were a little bit older than me. One of them said that she had attended Juilliard. I guess it was, Performing Arts High School or whatever in New York, very famous. And I said, oh, that's like Fame, right? She didn't. I don't know. She was a dance. She's a dancer, very talented. But I make jokes. So I said, oh, this Fame. My aunt, my dad's older sister, she died a couple of years ago. She was a very gifted piano player, from what I hear. I've never actually, heard her play, but I heard that she went to some kind of, or was it my other aunt? I don't know. One of my aunts went to some kind of school to, for musical ability. Everybody on my dad's side was very talented musically. So, I come from that kind of environment. My grandfather played the violin in the orchestra, I think, in Providence. My dad plays several instruments, and now my son with his guitar comes home last night. I'm doing the groceries planning, which I always do on Saturday nights, and listening to music and just trying to get some stuff done. He comes home with this big box. It's an amp. It's a bass amp. He said, oh, I paid whatever $200 for it. And it has this cool raspy kind of noise, which is why he likes it. It's got some snazzy sound. I don't know. But of course he had to try it out. It's 11 o'clock at night and he's playing the bass. It was loud. And I said, oh God, my first instinct was to cover my ears. because much as I love music, I grew up in a house that was very quiet. My parents liked things very quiet. And we had our beach house. And the thing was that my parents would never go down on the 4th of July weekend because they said there were too many crowds, too much noise, too many people on the beach. They didn't want to deal with that. They wanted to, so they would stay home in the city, in the suburbs, while everybody was at their beach house having a good time, going to swim in the ocean and having cookouts and burgers and drugs in the grill and swimming or whatever. My parents were home, because that's what one did, apparently. So, I grew up in a very quiet house. It was a 7. You know how you can do your numerology on your address and stuff? Well, it was a 7. And it was a weird kind of house where, like, we were in, like, this black hole where, phones didn't work, computers didn't work, stuff, the cable was always going off. Everybody else had it fine. Our house. So it was a little bit of a different experience. So every 4th of July, I think, I guess I should be going out and, doing something, but the way I was brought up, you don't. You do the opposite. You come in. And that's cancer, right? The crab, crab sees, and that's where the sun is this time of year in my chart. It activates that part of me that wants to, like, come in, hide under my little shell, So I guess that this is the lifetime that my soul wanted to experience that. And it has some advantages, though, I have to say, because it's kind of, coming as it does in the middle of the year, it's a time to kind of stop and assess where are we? What's your, how have things been going? And take a little rest and, kind of charge your batteries. It makes me get philosophical. It's not necessarily a time for reckless consumption. Although my husband and I celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary on the 1st, a couple nights ago. And we went out and we had a nice dinner. Not really fancy. We just went to Chili's. Had a little drink, just like a little chicken salad kind of thing. It was very light, very, and we walked around and just window shopped and had an ice cream at McDonald's. So, it was all good. And yeah, it's the time of year, I guess both of us feel that way. So maybe in some ways that's why we found each other, because that's, that suits both of us at this time of year. We're not fond of, although we did, when the kids were growing up, we set off some fireworks. He was good at that, being the electrical engineer. He'd find, the little ones, and we'd set them off safely in the driveway. My son, the firefighter, he always wanted more, Dad, more fire, more. It's like, no, you call that a firework, Dad? That's nothing. And then, before he was too old, he was out there setting them off himself, or helping his dad. We were always there with the kids. But, he learned how to do it. And when he was early preteen or whatever, he was starting to let him do a couple on his own safely. And so, we've always supervised that kind of thing. But, yeah, we've always just had quiet celebrations for the most part. Except the year we were married, 1995. The we went to Block Island because we were staying at my parents' beach house down in South Shore of Rhode Island. Block Island is this, it's a small island off the coast of Rhode Island. And you can take a ferry there and back in one day. It's very small. People go and ride their bikes around and maybe have an ice cream. Some people stay there, but it's not very big. On the opposite side of the island, there are these nice cliffs. So we rode our bikes down there, over at the ocean, over the cliff, and back. And, it's just kind of a nice way to spend a day. But, this year in particular, and one thing we did with the kids that came up when I was thinking, what about this country this year is speaking to me? And I realized that I have Vesta in my chart. Vesta is the keeper of the flame. I mean, there's such a thing. She's an asteroid, or it's in your chart. It's like where you, it's like the keeper of the hearth, keeper of the keeping the home fires burning, right? What are you passionate about? What do you try to keep the home fires? And for me, it's in my 10th house of career. That thing. It's like your soul mission. What do you want to? What do you stand for? And when we first met, my husband used to say they have in those movies, they used to have 20th century or whatever with the lady with the torch. I forget which of the movie companies had that, but she was da 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 da. She was the lady with the, and I used to always go like this, like I was holding up the torch. He used to make fun of me, like, oh yeah, do your torch thing, not tease me, just like, oh, do your torch, the lady with the torch, da, and I'd go, dee, and it was a joke that we had, a little joke. But then I started looking at my chart, like, I really am the lady with the torch. I'm sitting up there, 10th house, on the very top. It's conjunct by Jupiter. Jupiter is like God in your chart, right? In my midheaven. Midheaven is where you shine in the world. You can't make this stuff up. That's why I've always been so inspired by the Statue of Liberty. Come to find out, the 27th year of marriage, you give each other statues. It's like statues, like, what do you call those things? Sculptures. So I thought, duh, what is like the most famous sculpture? Well, in this country, the freaking Statue of Liberty. And I'm losing my voice here. I'm like, okay, so this all ties together, okay? Ready? So, Statue of Liberty was a gift from France to the U.S., right? It was enlightening, a symbol of enlightening the world. It's my sole purpose. I'm like a lighthouse, and it standing for freedom and democracy. That's what she stands for. And do you know that the guy who made the Statue of Liberty made her with his mother's likeness? Are you kidding me? Right? It's like, the best Mother's Day gift ever. What about his wife? It's like, well, didn't you make it to look like your wife is supposed to be your love, right? No, he makes the statue with his mother's face on it. So imagine being married to this guy. And my husband has Moon in Cancer. He's got in his office, half the pictures in his office have his mother in them. I would venture a guess as to say 90% of them have his mother. So, I gotta think, this guy is like my husband. He made a larger than life statue with his mother's picture on it. And we watched our wedding video the other night. They had, before the wedding, my mother-in-law picks out this song. You know, it was popular at the time, and she's practiced it. She sang it for weeks and months before. It's like, my loving son, even though you have taken a wife, you'll always be my ow. Ow. My son wanted to just bang my head on the tree. My loving son. I'm like, okay. And so they danced to that. I just danced to this song with my dad. I mean, it was Daddy's Girl. So, you know, maybe I am, or was Daddy's Girl, Peter Cetera. But I'm looking, I'm like, okay, so this guy, and anyway, back to the Statue of Liberty. Bear with me, please. Okay, so back to the Statue of Liberty. So, okay, we went by the Statue of Liberty on a ferry with the boys when we went on a Cub Scout trip. And it was like around 2010. And we went by the Statue of Liberty, and we were very close to it. And then we passed by the site of the World Trade Center, Ground Zero. And at the time they were building the new tower. And it was highly emotional to see that, to be in that place at that time. And then years later, 2016, we went up in the tower, had our family picture taken at the top of it. But I can remember, when I was working, I took a trip to Wall Street. I went to a seminar, and I stayed in the Vista Hotel, which was at the foot of the World Trade Center. And I remember taking the people mover across and seeing the Statue of Liberty. And I always think of that movie, Working Girl, you know, because they show the Statue of Liberty. And what does all this have in common, you ask? Well, if you're a woman, right, in the late 1800s when they dedicated the thing, it's freedom. Come to the United States where you have freedom and opportunity, democracy for all, and the huddled masses, and you know, and the whole thing, freedom and opportunity, right? Named after Libertas, a Roman goddess, right? Inclusiveness, modeled on, 7 spikes. On the seven spikes in the crown for the 7 oceans and the 7 continents, right? So anyway, 1886, around Halloween, they put it up there, they dedicate it. Women are protesting. They're like, what the heck is this? We can't even vote, and you've got this woman up there with your mother's picture, some guy's mother's picture on it, that's supposed to indicate freedom for all. What about, African Americans? People who didn't have at the time, and maybe still not have equal access to the American dream. What about those women who are, couldn't vote? Were, women as property. Women as lesser. Well, not today. We've got 4 women on, 4 women now? We have women on the Supreme Court. We have, okay. So I have to call your attention to the events of late. When you think that there isn't progress, where there hasn't been progress, look back to when the Statue of Liberty was dedicated, and you'll see that there is progress. Not that there isn't still potential for progress. I don't want to get too political here. But I love that poem that's inscribed on a Statue of Liberty, Emma Lazarus, the new Colossus. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The lamp beside the golden door. And it's under the jurisdiction now of the National Park Service. So, definitely something to... I've never been up in it. I've always wanted to go up in it, but because the past couple of years they've actually had to close it, you know. Makes sense. But, so the song for today, you know, I keep thinking, wow, this came up when I was running the other day, and I've had it in my head. And fame, I want to live forever, you know, right? You know, people remember my name. Raise it up, raise it up, raise it up. It's perfect. Go click the link and listen to Fame, and it's a happy song, it's an uplifting song. If you feel like you need to just bust out, go dance your heart out. Get out, go out in the woods or something, like me. Go somewhere, put it on, and just, you know, kickbox, dance your heart out. Dance your heart out. And it's, you know, I guarantee you'll feel better. I guarantee it. That's what we need to do right now. So, Irene Cara. Ironically, okay, I just have to mention this. Cara means face, or deer. I think cara is like deer. I think it also means face, cara, in Spanish. Cariño means like con cariño is like with love, like hugging kind of love. But Irene just happens to be my mother-in-law's name. So it all ties together, doesn't it? The guy who made a statue with his mother's picture on it, and the lady singing the song who has the same name as my mother-in-law. Okay, go, you know, tie it all together. Anyway, Tom Cruise. Mission Impossible. How about Mission Possible? How about anything is possible if you put your mind to it? And that pretty much, I think, is his motto, right? Because he's, you know, he has, he's a person who's shown that you can live your dreams if you're, you know, if you just keep at it and work hard, and you can make your dreams happen, become reality. So whatever you think about Tom Cruise, he is that. He's the embodiment. Did I tell you about the time? Oh, it's flashing at me. I went to see Born on the 4th of July with one of my friends.